warriors chasing gold. This game's ours, it's ours to hold. One shot left, one play to run. Make it count under the setting sun. It's game time grind. All or nothing on the line. Push through the pain. Leave it all in the rain. It's game time grind. Victory's ours to find. Victory's ours to find. It's game time grind. Victory's ours to find. Victory's ours to find. Victory's ours to find.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Ali the Persian. This is Steve. It's Game Time Grind. Welcome to a brand new episode. And as usual, Mystic is fashionably late. He is coming with his entourage. He'll be here shortly. He loves that intro music, so I know we'll have Mystic soon. How's it going, Steve? How is everything?
It's going. It's been a crazy day for a lot of reasons.
It's been a crazy day for a lot of different reasons. It's been a crazy week. It was a crazy New Year. How was your New Year's?
Pretty much pretty good. You know, spent it with the family. Didn't really do too much craziness.
Yeah, I pretty much did the same thing, man. I chilled, with the family. We were on a movie marathon. My middle child, she's never watched Stranger Things, so we started binge watching Stranger Things to help her catch up. So that was kind of fun. It was really cool to see her interaction, or not interaction, I say reaction to the series. But hey, it is what it is. If you're new to Game Time Grind, welcome to College Football Show. We're live here on 4th and 10U. We're also live on TFTG and other outlets such as X. But please do us a favor, right? If you're on the X side, right? If you're watching on X, come over to the YouTube side, right? If you go look in the description of this show on YouTube, this show is being broadcast both on TFTG Network, but also 4th and 10. If you could please follow us on 4th and 10. We're trying to grow that channel and everything. We'd really appreciate it. The moment we get to 100 followers, we're going to have a giveaway. And then once we get to 500, we're going to have even a bigger giveaway. So it's going to be some really cool stuff. So definitely, please follow us at 4th and 10U. Look in the description. The link is there. I'd really appreciate that. Also, so pretty much Happy New Year to everybody. It was good New Year's. It was not the best New Year's Eve for me, obviously. It was that Ohio State versus Miami game. Some of you have probably seen me change my avatar to Sebastian in route of the Miami Hurricanes winning. That was part of my bet that I lost. Not only did I have a monetary fine of a loss, I agreed to change my avatar and root for the Canes to the end of the playoffs, right? So I have to do that. I'm a man of my word, and I always follow it. But yeah, man, that game was crazy start to last week, right? The Hurricanes came out, swinging left and right, and they rightfully won the game. To be 100% honest, it was almost like Ohio State wasn't ready to play the game in the first half. Second half was a complete different story. They came out ready. I mean, they did exactly what I thought they could do. The other part of it also is we're seeing that reoccurring thing where they get into the red zone, but they can't get it done in the red zone, right? So those are some concerns I had with the game. What did you think about the Miami versus Ohio State game altogether?
Well, as the sole co-host that took Miami to win, and outside of a pick six that messed up my numbers, I was almost dead on the score.
You were almost dead on. I'll give it to you. Imagine if that pick six didn't happen, though. I mean, to be honest, there might have been a different scenario that happened here. You know what I mean? You never know. You never know. But the reality is this: I think that defensive line for Miami came to play. And I think it was too much for certain parts of the Ohio State offensive line, especially right guard. They had a guy who had never started a game before. Van Sinkle, I think is how you say his name. He started. He looked like trash. I think Ryan Day is at fault for not pulling him and bringing in the new guy sooner. And if you looked at the second half, Van Sinkle wasn't playing right guard in that whole second half. It was the other guy who did much better, obviously. I don't have the name on top of my head off at this point, but I think that's really where the game was won. It was won in the trenches. People were. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. I mean, this game came down to the trenches. I had predicted that it was going to fall on CJ Daniels and Cardell Tate to take over the game for the winning team, and CJ definitely stepped up for Miami as well as their running back. The safeties on both sides, Caleb Downs and the name escapes me, safety, were laying lumber hits left and right. Like it was a slug fight, and made more plays when it mattered, which is kind of I feel like the conversation we had when during the championship game between Ohio State and Indiana, right? It came down to Indiana made more plays at specific times, and it won them.
Yep, they were better at the clutch.
Mm-hmm. So I think, and I said this to you, and I said this to the guys, right? Like, I think the better team won only because they made more plays, but also I think just beat, in my opinion, if not the best team, the second best team in the college playoffs.
I agree. I agree with that. Look, you look at what they did in the trenches. They definitely took advantage. They took advantage of some of the inexperience on that offensive line. So that I really, I really have to give it to them. What they didn't do, which a lot of Hurricane fans said would happen, what are they going to do to stop Malachi Toney? Who's going to be able to cover Malachi Toney? That's all we heard all week. You know that, Steve. You were in those spaces with me. And I think overall, I think they took care of Malachi Toney. They took him out of the game and forced the game to be won in the trenches and forced Fletcher to really be the decisive win for them, to be honest. And once they fixed their problems, the momentum switched. Ohio State actually was on a somewhat of a comeback at that point. So if you take away the missed field goal and the pick six, this game might have a little bit of a different output. It doesn't matter now at this point, to be honest, what the result was going to be. But I just wanted to point that out. This game was fought very hard. It was close between both. And I don't want to take anything away from what Ohio State did during that game. I just think they made their adjustments too late, and they should have done it much sooner. And that's what you
need a new kicker. This is two games in a row that kicker has put you in a bad situation.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I try not to hate on my own players, to be honest. Very few times you'll hear me hate on an Ohio State player. But that kicker has to go. They need to get somebody new. Hopefully the transfer portal, which we're going to talk about tonight, because it's going wild and crazy. We're going to definitely talk about that. Any final thoughts before we close the chapter on this game and we move on to next week's game?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Sounds good. let's talk about what transpired. So we already know Miami beat Ohio State, right? And that Georgia Rebels game against Georgia versus Ole Miss, one of the craziest finishes you've ever seen. Wouldn't you agree, Steve?
Yeah, that was. Whew,
I
that
want to say
game did not go anywhere where we thought it was going to go.
I had Georgia pegged to destroy them. I didn't even think they stood a chance after watching Georgia play against Alabama in the SEC championship. Who would have thought that Ole Miss, who's coachless, you could say, not fully, but they're pretty much coachless, and get away with that kind of result. I was like, wow. And the play made by the quarterback at the end of the game, that really I really think he stood up at the biggest moment. And that's that was a crazy finish. If you haven't watched that game, go check it out. We're going to be talking about quarterbacks here in a moment that are left in this draft. But any takeaways from that game? I didn't really watch it except for that last series by Ole Miss.
How do I want to say this? I think Georgia overlooked them.
I agree.
That whole game felt like Georgia walked in with the mindset they were going to dog walk them like they did Alabama. They got punched in the face. They got up. Let's be clear here. Georgia got up on them. And then they got punched in the face, and they weren't ready for that punch in the face. And then it just the punches kept coming, and they couldn't get their hands up fast enough, and it just became Ole Miss just laying hits on them. And then the end of the game was it was the nail in the coffin. He made the play when it mattered most.
Definitely. And speaking about nailing the coffin, I'm gonna play this guy some music. You know how it goes.
Whistle blows, turf stain with ambition. Chains clank 10 yards, the mission. Fourth down, no punt or precision. Pressure so thick, cut it with decisions. Huddle up, mind sharp like cleats. Helmet to helmet, hit a heartbeat.
What is up, Mystic? How you doing, sir?
Fashionably on time. I mean, late.
Are you on Cuban Missile time? Is that what time you're in?
Yeah, just a little bit. And you got to put your phone on the charger from Spaces all day, and you go eat dinner and forget to check the time. That's kind of what happens.
I'm just messing with you, Mystic. It's all right that you're late.
No, it's chill. Sorry, man. I'm here. What's going on, y'all? How we doing? Where are we at?
We're just recapping the games that happened. We were talking about the crazy finish to Georgia and Ole Miss. That was absolutely ridiculous. I think Ole Miss came, and I'm going to use a comparison, not fully, but just the momentum kind of part of it, right? I think Ole Miss came out with that Indiana mentality that you doubt me so much, you're going to pay for it, and we're going to come out with a swinging so hard you won't know what hit you, right? And though Georgia had the lead, right? They had it going. In Ohio State had the lead on Indiana for a hot minute. In a similar fashion, Ole Miss took care of Georgia. You and I and Steve were on this show the day prior, saying that Georgia was gonna kill Ole Miss. Did we not say that? Kirby Smart, argued is the number one number one head coach left in this draft, right? We mentioned that out of the rankings, he was number one, right? We went through the whole argument going back and forth on who's number one, only to watch him lose to, I call it a coachless team. They're not fully coachless. Obviously, they have a head coach and everything, but it's not anybody you would recognize the big name. It's not the Lane Kiffins or the Kellen DeBoers or the Ryan Days or Kurt Signetti or even Mario Cristobal's of the world, right? It's somebody I don't even know who the guy is, to be honest. So that being said, to me, it was just very surprising that they were able to pull it off. And in amazing fashion, Ole Miss pulled one out of the bag with that last sequence of a series that they had. I think it was amazing. What are your thoughts on that game? Did you watch any of it at all?
Yeah, I watched some of it. I thought it was actually really all telling for, again, I think you hit the nail on the head, funny nail on the head. I think you hit that perfectly with the underdog mentality. Everyone's counting us out. We're still the players that got us here. It doesn't matter if my coach isn't here. We know the scheme. We know how each other plays. We have the chemistry. Let's go show them play some football. That's what you're seeing. I did see that most of the assistants actually are staying there until this playoff run is over. So that helps tremendously. And it's funny, I think the guy who's like the intern, his name's like something Golding.
Mm,
I think that sounds right.
yeah, I
I'll
think you're
check that 100%. But funny enough, I've already seen people kind of dogging on the whole Lane Kiffin thing, and this guy in 2 attempts could do something that Lane Kiffin had all these attempts to do and couldn't get it done. Like, people are just trolling him hard. I think it's really funny. Overall, I was happy to see it, man. It was against the norm. I'm always down for the underdog. It's going to make my predictions fun because I really think Ole Miss is playing with a chip on their shoulder, and anytime a team's playing that way, that's dangerous.
Yeah, I agree. What are any other thoughts you had, Steve?
Nope, that was it for me.
That was it for you. The next game we're going to talk about is the Texas Tech Oregon game. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this. In my opinion, and I might get some heat for this, I'm just not enamored by Dante Moore at all. I really am not. A lot of people are telling me, oh, he has elite skills. And I don't know. Just that game was just boring to me. What are your thoughts on the Texas Tech game?
What's that famous thing we hear every once in a while in spaces? Two, right? Here's my dark horse doing dark horse things. Dante Moore, he's an elite level game manager. That's it. Like that's what it is.
I think. Thank you for saying that he's a game manager, because that is my premise on him. 234 yards, no TDs, 1 interception. Right.
Yep.
And to be 100% honest, we've seen this type of play many times in our own professional team that we both follow. It was just very disappointing. I want to say it was their running back that got 2 TDs, I think. That's really where the game was at. And I want to say there was a pick 6, I think, somewhere too in all of that. I could be wrong about that. Don't quote me on the pick 6. I thought there may have been, but it just felt like a boring game, bro. It wasn't really that exciting to me. And on the other side of it, Texas Tech, who I've said it a million times, it's been rumored that they have the most expensive roster in college football altogether. I want to say it's upwards of 23 million or more. Their quarterback didn't do anything special either. He was 18 for 32, 137 yards, 2 interceptions. Do you want to know what his QBR score was?
15.
Close. 18.
Oh, man.
Dude, I kid you not. It's 18.
Okay.
It was that bad. So it was like, I was like, oh my God, how horrendous. This is a team that I would say they were 12-2 going into this game. They were 12-2 going into this game. Oregon was 13-1. Yeah. It just wasn't very. It just was a boring game to me. Yeah, it was 23-0. Some people think that would be an awesome game, but to me, it was boring. I don't know.
I think it was a statement. I think it was a statement, man. I really do. I mean, we talked on here multiple times and how I believe that Texas Tech was one of the more high-powered offenses, in this college playoff. I think Dan Lanning and his defense to come out and literally silence that offense. Now, given, we could talk about this, You know, I might take my moment later to talk about this for a second, but the rest in between, I understand having almost a month off of football that hurts you, but still having all that talent and not being able to get anything going. I have to tip my hat to Dan Lanning. That is having your guys prepared for that offense, P's and Q's executed properly, shut out in the playoffs. Like stellar play.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. The next game we're going to talk about, and that's one that a lot of people, were enamored
Well,
by.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
add in on that on
Sure.
the Oregon game before we move on from it? Because this game, and I understand what people are saying. Like my comp for damn, the mind just the quarterback for Oregon,
Dante Moore.
Dante Moore, was CJ Stroud. I see so much CJ Stroud in how he plays the game. That game was not a normal, for me, what I normally see from Dante Moore. That being said, as a franchise quarterback, like in the NFL, what you're looking for in your franchise quarterbacks are the game changers. But even when you're having a bad game, the guys who can facilitate the win. This was defense on defense. We knew Texas Tech's defense was going to show up. Their offense crapped the bed. Oregon's defense showed up. Their offense, though, sputtered for a good majority of the game. They still showed up enough to score points and enough points to win a playoff game. That's all you can ask for. Like, quarterbacks aren't perfect. They're not going to have the greatest games every single week. Dante was feeling the pressure. They were still getting after him. Like, Oregon's offensive line was still letting pressure through to Texas's defense. And they made a few plays and they had a few drop interceptions. Like, there should have probably been a couple more turnovers. But when you shut a team out and drop 30 on them in any level of competition, I think that speaks, in my opinion, world for who that team is, especially the quarterback that's leading the charge. But that could just be me.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I don't know if he looks like CJ Stroud out there. To be honest, I don't know. Just when I've watched Dante Moore, it's not wowing me. It's not like, oh my god, this guy is the next sliced bread. You know what I mean? That's just how I look at it. It's just my opinion. But yeah. So the last game, Indiana versus Alabama. Everybody thought it was going to be a big time rock and roll concert. It was a beatdown, belt to ass, legitly. The game ended up Indiana winning 38-3. Ty Simpson, 12 for 16, 67 yards, no TDs, no interceptions. Austin Mack, their backup QB, had I think he's the backup QB. 11 for 16, 103 yards, 6.4 yards average, no TDs, no interceptions. But Mendoza, 14 for 16, 192 yards, and 3 TDs. QBR was 96.7. Again, Indiana's defense playing to a top level, taking care of business. Mendoza doing what's needed, winning the game. I personally, Mendoza is going to be hella trouble for Oregon. I don't see how Oregon is going to be able to find a way against Indiana. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about that here in a little bit. But any thoughts on the Indiana-Alabama game at all?
Man, if that's not I don't want to say a welcome to the show moment, but I'm telling you, for Kurt Signetti to have Indiana come out and be the first team to, be that, bye team to win, and not just win, dominate. And
Mhm.
not dominate any team, dominate an organization that we have watched be like the level of consistency through college football for the last probably 20 years. So, like, for them to come out and just absolutely belt to ass the whole game, uh, I got a hot take about Signetti, but I'm going to hold that for a minute. Indiana, welcome. You are one of the powerhouses in college football.
Yeah, Indiana's really putting belt to ass. What do you think, Steve?
You remember the question I asked when we were talking about the Georgia game, where they were playing, so I could figure out what police department to call? I think we needed to call the police department on Indiana because that was an assault. That was an assault on. It should have been a shutout. That defense just kind of at the end of the game just kind of meh, let them get a field goal. Like it was a shutout from start to finish in my opinion. Mendoza, because I also kind of said like I thought Dante Moore might put on a show to try and push for that number one spot in the QB draft. It's not even close. This kid Mendoza's running away with it, and it's like it's not even close anymore. This was something.
Definitely, I have to agree with you. It's definitely something. So it's just for me, Mendoza solidifying why he's going to be the number one overall pick in the NFL. He's not making mistakes. You could almost call him Iceman. He doesn't make very many mistakes. He does it just right. And, he's elite in the clutch. That's what it comes down to it, to be honest.
100%.
So, yeah, some interesting thoughts about those games. Yeah, I was really surprised about how bad Indiana put it on Alabama. I was surprised about the Georgia Ole Miss result. Ole Miss winning. I did not expect that at all. I want to say the Oregon game kind of just really disappointed me because I had much more faith in Texas Tech. If anything, even if Oregon was going to win it, I thought Texas Tech would be in the game, and it didn't end up that way. And of course, the Ohio State Miami game result was surprising too.
Right.
I guess there's surprises to go all around, to be honest. What are your guys' final thoughts on the quarterfinals before we move into the semifinals?
Yeah. So real quick, I guess obviously I missed the beginning take. Ohio State, Miami. I really think, and again, I said this after Miami won. I was in Spaces. I let people know Miami's a great team. I think what is going to beat that great team is a quarterback who's able to take the heat early. So in the NFL, we see teams coming a wave early if you're on the road or whatever. And then you take a second, you adjust, you settle in, you play your best game. I think there's one or two guys that I think one can manage it. I think Fernando Mendoza can do it. I think Dante Moore might be close, but we'll see. I think honestly Miami could rock him early and it would be a long day. But we watched it with Mendoza. He got sacked 2 out of the first 3 plays. And then the kid still was able to settle in here after 2 first kind of rough drives and settled in again to the stats that you said. 3 touchdowns was all the part you needed when you needed him to be his best. That's what I think can beat the Miami Hurricanes. That's what's potentially going to be the difference. We'll see. But overall, I think that's what hurt Ohio State. This young quarterback for you guys. He's young, man. He's still learning for some things, and I think this is going to be a good growth moment. I think this will be does he go forward or does he let this hold him back moment for Julian Saint? The rest of it, everything else, I think we all thought that Texas Tech was going to be competitive. again, like we said, we had all talked about how that was one of the better offenses in college football. No one expected them to come out and look that bad. So, and same thing with Alabama. If you'd have told me that Alabama was going to only score 3 points in that game prior to, I'd have been like, you're nuts. This is why they play the game. This is why we enjoy college football. There's so many different things that, as much as we think and analyze it, we still miss some things that factor into those victories.
Yeah, man. It was very interesting. But yeah, I think in all 4 of those games there was a surprise that came that I just wasn't expecting. It didn't feel like the normal playoffs to me. It was really weird, very, very odd. I want to get into the next subject because I have another subject that I think is going to tie more into the semifinals, and we're going to make our picks and do our breakdowns and stuff. So we'll talk about that here in a moment. But I want to move straight into the coaching carousel and more transfers and more commits. I want to talk about that real quick. And with that being said, this season for offseason for transfer portal movement and committing and whatnot has been the craziest. We've seen players commit to one team, only find out they're being held by a gun by their parents or by their brother or mom, only waiting to turn 18 and then sign with the team they really wanted, right? You saw that happen with Legend Bay. That was crazy. Then you saw the fallout when Brian Hartline became, head coach at the University of South Florida and all these wide receivers leaving Ohio State. Well, Steve, I'm here to tell you that has not ended. Let's talk about this. And I'm going to share with everybody this right here. I'm going to start off with this piece of news. This is breaking, and this goes into something we're going to be talking about more in the offseason and doing our predictions and breakdowns. Carnell Tate has officially said goodbye and is declared for the NFL draft, right? They have him measured to be a top 10 pick in this year's draft, and he has said goodbye and has declared. So congratulations to Carnell Tate. I wish nothing but the best for him. I think he's a hell of a wide receiver. Pick up whatever team gets him. They're getting a hell of a dude. And we'll see what happens. So congratulations to Carnell Tate. So you naturally would think that would open up space for some of this younger talent that's behind him, right? And as soon as I pull this person up, Steve's going to know what I'm talking about. Quincy Porter, former 2024 5-star wide receiver, has declared to enter the transfer portal. He's entering the transfer portal. This is massive. This is very big, massive, because this is a guy that we just got last recruiting offseason. Last recruiting offseason. He was really showcased a lot more in the spring game, but they hardly used him at all during the season. At all. I thought I saw him maybe 2 or 3 times at very most. It was all Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. Even when Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith weren't playing, other players were getting the game ahead of him. So I wonder what's going on. I don't know what the issue was, why he couldn't get on the field, but I think it's massive. If he comes to the University of South Florida, arguably that would be a massive pickup for you guys. What do you think, Steve?
I think that we predicted some of this stuff might happen when Hartline got the job. Like all these kids that he's been recruiting out of Florida to Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked about those guys, but I mean, just nationwide, the guys that he brought in, they're there not just because it's Ohio State, of course. They're going because it's Ohio State, but a lot of them came because of Hartline. I assume some might come down. I didn't expect the big names to come. Like there were some talks about like what the young kid you guys just got when he was kind of deciding if he still wanted to go to Ohio State or not after Heartline left, and there were some people like trying to throw fishing lines out towards Jeremiah Smith, which was never going to happen. Even though he's entered the transfer portal, like I don't know if he's coming to USF. I'm not even going to put that out there. Like we'll wait and see what happens.
Well,
But if he does, he will be more than welcomed because we lost everybody.
I do know and I know since since we pretty much started this show and Brian Hartline got announced as the USF head coach. I've been following a lot more USF stuff, and I've been in some chat rooms and listening to what people are having to say. And there's been some people that are closer to being in the know than some. And there's some rumors that there might be some surprise additions made by the end of this offseason, right? And if he brings in a Quincy Porter, that is a massive, massive surprise, to be honest. And I would argue, I know just last week you signed CJ Hicks. That wasn't just last week. This was this weekend. You signed CJ Hicks. That's a hell of a linebacker. Now, if you pull it off and get the receiver, that's awesome. That I think right there, you're swinging for the fences, and I like what you guys are doing as a program.
There's one more rumor going around, and it keeps being said we're going to find out tomorrow. I don't know if it's true or not, but there's been some smoke, some matches thrown about Van Buren from LSU.
That might be very, very interesting. That would be huge. We shall see. I'm very excited to see what he does in his first tenure as head coach. So I'm following that closely. I know a lot of people say, what are you doing following USF? You're a Buckeye fan. Yeah, but I'm a Dolphin fan, and I live in Florida, so Hartline's, he's a Dolphin and he's a former Buckeye. I got to support the man. That's just how I look at things. So that happened. That was massive. There's a lot of movement going around. I know there's some rumors, or people, not really rumors, but I don't know if you guys saw Dylan Raiola is really upset with Texas Tech. He thought he had that Texas Tech situation figured out for himself, and he feels like Texas Tech was really disloyal and betrayed him, to be honest. That's what people are saying. What are your thoughts on that? Because he still hasn't found a home yet.
That's what he gets. Sorsby was the better quarterback. I try telling people.
He was. Sorsby, I really like Sorsby. I didn't really know too much about him. A friend of the community that we're part of, turned me on to him, and I watched his tape. I kind of like what I saw from Sorsby, and I think he's going to do very well at Texas Tech. I think he's a better quarterback than who they had against the game against Oregon. So we will. Yeah, that game might be a little bit different had Sorsby been there. So,
well, even the Sorsby thing was kind of interesting. I don't know if y'all saw what actually happened when he took the position.
Yeah,
he was UM was making a huge push for him, and it came down to Texas giving him $5 million supposedly in NIL money, and his girlfriend apparently goes there, from what I heard.
Oh shit! So it's almost like a Carson Beck deal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's honestly that's the real deal. Is what I've seen reported too, all over that.
Wow.
Yeah, the $5 million, because he's making. Is he making more? He's making more than someone who made their annual salary this year, who's in the pros. I can't remember who it was.
Mm-hmm. Wow, very interesting. Not too far from there, Nebraska may have a new QB. I'm hearing UNLV transfer Anthony Colandrea, I think is how you say his last name. Sorry if I'm not really good with names, but I heard that he might be heading to Nebraska. So that'll be an interesting watch who fills in for Dylan Raiola's empty spot now. Another team I know, Florida State may have a new QB, from what I heard.
There's a new
Lagway.
QB at Penn State. I might know the guy.
What did you say? Say that again.
There's a new QB at Penn State. We might know the guy.
Please, do tell. Do tell.
Good old Rocco Becht officially signed with Penn State.
Yep, I did see that. What do you think of Dylan Raiola at Iowa State?
I mean, they're not. I'm telling, no one's gonna want to go there right now. They're nothing. They okay. So Steve's talking about how his team's been gutted. Like, at least you guys have hope to rebuild. The stability and hope for ISU is gone, and they're now up to 46 players that have entered and or left ISU at this time. So they're absolutely gutted. I don't know what to think about this new. It's like, what's funny is I think the guy's name is Steve Rogers or something.
So just so you're aware, Steve, about DJ Lagway. DJ Lagway is set to visit Baylor on Wednesday. I think they get that deal done. I think he'll be at Baylor.
That'd be good.
I think he's going to be at Baylor. Another commit left Texas, wide receiver Parker Livingston. Committed to Oklahoma out of nowhere. I'm kind of surprised by this. I don't know if you guys know Ohio State versus Texas. He was the guy that scored against Ohio State, and he's already up and out of there, huh? That's kind of surprising. To be 100% honest. Now, here's a guy that I'm kind of excited to find out where he goes, because I think it's going to be to a Big Ten team. I know he was recruited heavily by certain Big Ten teams. Missouri star edge Damon Wilson. Damon Wilson is who I'm talking about. That kid, I'm really excited. He was with Missouri, the Mizzou, last 2 seasons, and I'm, he had 9 sacks this past season. Actually, I'm very
nice.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see where he ends up, which Big Ten team he ends up with. So keep an eye out on that one. But yeah, it's been a very interesting season. It feels like everybody's trading QBs. I want to say your guys, Steve, your guys' former QB went to Auburn. Is that yes, official now?
Yes, along with like half of our team.
Yeah, I know your wide receiver. You guys re-signed your wide receiver. I know that happened.
We re-signed one of them, but the other 3, 2 corners, I think a running back, they all went to Auburn.
Some more Penn State news. This will tickle Mystic a little bit. Ohio State running back transfer James Peoples has committed to Penn State. That has happened. He was a 4-star recruit out of San Antonio, Texas. Look, this is the reality on Peoples, and this is what I saw this season. And I kind of wanted to talk about this a little bit because people are asking me, what happened to the Buckeyes? What happened? Well, let's look at what happened. Last year, they had 2 arguably starting running backs that were explosive. Judkins and Travion Henderson, right? Let's not forget that. Both of those guys arguably could be the top 5 running backs drafted at any moment in any draft, to be honest. They're that good. And Travion Henderson is showing that currently. They had that ability to be able to move the ball without having the offensive line, right? We thought, Buckeye fans, thought bringing him in along with Bo Jackson and even CJ Donaldson, they thought we could get similar type of production. We thought it was good enough. Peoples he looks fast, but he's not fast. Do you get what I'm saying? He doesn't explode out of the hole. When he gets open into the open, he moves quickly. It's just not elite level speed, if you know what I mean, Mystic.
100%. I follow you there.
So that's just some food for thought in regards to Peoples and what you're getting out of him. I think he's talented. Don't get me wrong. He'll probably be a starter on any other team. I just don't think he was good enough to run behind our line. That's just my thoughts. Let me see if there's any more breaking news because there's been so much news moving quickly. This Quincy Porter news came out of nowhere, though. I'm not very happy about that. I'll have to see what happened there.
I do want to just real quick, and I don't want to spend too much time on USF, but I would
Sure.
like to point out that we went from losing half of our roster dang near to having the 12th best recruiting class for the portal.
Mm.
And it's only moving up. I think we might be up to 11th now, and we're still adding players. And Auburn's all-star, whatever you want to call, big star rookie QB or freshman QB, Deuce Knight is still out floating around,
Mm.
and no one knows where he's going.
That's interesting. Also, the Florida State quarterback I was talking about that just got signed with Florida State is Ashton Daniels. He was with Auburn and transferred to Florida State. So that's kind of interesting. You know who hasn't signed yet? And there's so many rumors of where he could go. I turned on X just a few moments ago before the show, and they said he was signing with some like I want to say it was a Big 12 team. Surprised everybody, right? The kid from Arizona, I think it's Arizona State, Levitt, I think his name is, the quarterback. He hasn't signed with anybody yet. So it'll be really interesting where he goes. I know a lot of people were thinking
The
maybe
kid from Arizona?
Yeah, Arizona. That's what I'm thinking of.
I think he did. I think he did sign. Sam Levitt?
I don't think he did yet. He visited, I know, but I don't think he's signed yet. Let me look that up. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I might be wrong, but there was just some weird rumors going around that he had signed with a team that I didn't expect, and then come to find out it was fake news.
Maybe he's just visited, and that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. I know he was going to visit Kentucky. He had that lined up. Some other teams that were going to be interested was LSU was another one. I guess yeah. So he visited with Will Stein and the Kentucky Wildcats over the weekend. Now he's in Baton Rouge visiting with LSU and the Tigers. I will be surprised if he leaves LSU without a deal with them. But another contender that people are saying to watch out for is the Miami Hurricanes. Will the Hurricanes try to go after Sam Levitt? That'll be very interesting. Any other portal news that you guys have?
I don't believe so. I think that's it.
All right. Well, we'll keep that subject open in case there's breaking news, because some of the news that came out as we started the show. So we will keep an eye on that. All right. Let's get into some other news here. And I saw this, and it kind of reminded me of last week's conversation in regards to ranking the head coaches, right, that are in this in the college football playoff. Well, we're going to rank really the quarterbacks and even some of the skill positions we might do. And I'm looking at this article and they have them ranked, and I'm really surprised how this ranking came about, because to be honest, the order just doesn't make sense to me. And I'd like to talk about it and kind of get an idea what you guys think. So they have the quarterbacks ranked, and I'll start off with number 4, Carson Beck, Miami Hurricanes. They have him at number 4. After throwing 6 interceptions in Miami's 2 losses, Beck has been much more of a game manager of late. No more so than the team's first 2 college football playoff wins, completing 71.7% of his pass attempts with 2 touchdowns, while only averaging 120.5 yards per game. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of production there from Carson Beck. He is pretty much being a game manager. not making mistakes, would you agree he's the fourth best quarterback in this college football playoff? Anybody?
I'm sorry, I missed that last bit.
No. I think so. Yes, I agree.
You agree that that Carson Beck is number 4 out of the quarterbacks that are left in this college football playoff? He's number 4?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What about you, Steve? Any thoughts on that?
That's tough between him and the Ole Miss quarterback, because Carson Beck's not a wow guy. He really is the definition of a game manager.
I'll give you number 3, and this is what might shock you guys, right? Number 3 is Dante Moore from the Oregon Ducks, a potential top 5 2026 NFL draft pick. Moore has been razor sharp in the playoffs, going 45 of 60. Okay, that's pretty good. 75% for 547 yards, 9.1 yards per attempt. His 3 interceptions are a concern, but Moore can be more than more can more than make up for them with his explosive playmaking ability. So does his explosive playmaking ability or dual threat ability put him over Carson Beck?
Yes.
I'll tell you right now, I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of saying yes at this point.
Absolutely, yes. I'm going to argue that he should be at number 2, honestly.
Yes.
You're going to argue that Dante Moore should be number 2?
Over Trinidad. Over Trinidad Shambles, I think is how you say his name. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Okay. I kind of agree with you. However, I want to say the person that wrote this article did not agree. And I think I'm going to probably give some people a heart attack as I give out this name that's number 2. Number 2 is Fernando Mendoza. Why the hell is Mr. Clutch, the Heisman winner, the man that had, granted he had 130 some yards, but had threw 3 touchdowns on top of it, right? In the quarterfinal. Why the hell is he number 2?
Because Ole Miss has scored 41 and 39. That's the only reason. That's all this is.
Maybe that's what it comes down to. It says in Indiana's 38-3 Rose Bowl romp over Alabama, Mendoza threw more touchdowns, 3, than interceptions, 2. He also has had 87.5% completion rate. His 5th game this season, completing at least 80% of his passes, tied with Ohio State's Julian Sayin for the most by a starting quarterback in the FBS this season. That's what's interesting. Number 1, obviously, is Trinidad Chambliss. It was a toss-up between Mendoza and Chambliss, but the 3-play sequences from the Sugar Bowl from the former Ferris State quarterback sealed the deal. So they're saying just by the 3-play sequence at the end of the game in the Sugar Bowl is what sealed the deal by them. I'm sorry, I have to disagree with this guy. Mendoza is arguably the overall number 1 quarterback in this draft. And I'll even make an argument, if we had the season that we had today in 2027, Mendoza is still the number 1 overall pick, in my opinion, based on the stats that transpired in this season had it been in 2027. Would you disagree?
No, I'm with you.
What about you, Steve? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's ridiculous.
I think the article's ridiculous. I agree, But let's say the stats, right? Let's say this was 2027 and it wasn't not 2025, right? We're all saying that the talent in the 2027 draft is so much better than this year's. But you had the same results, the same stats. Mendoza wins the Heisman. He's still in the semifinals. Same thing happens. Who's the number one overall pick in that draft? I'm going to tell you, it's still Fernando Mendoza for me. It still would be if we had the same results, exact same.
I think there's one person who's going to be pushing if he continues to play like he did in his I believe it was the bowl game, right, Mystic, with Texas. If he plays like that next year, Arch is going to be probably the guy pushing for number one. I don't know if Mendoza could beat out Arch if Arch plays like that next year. But the overall point stands. Like this kid's again, I don't think he's a game changer, and I think that's something like I heard him compared to Kirk Cousins at one time. I don't think he's that unable to take over games. I don't think he's because Kirk Cousins, I believe, is a game manager at the most basics of levels, right? Mendoza, I think, will be better than that. I don't think he's a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, change the game, take it over, put it in his pocket, and run away with it. But I do think he's because the team isn't scoring 40 and 39 every all on both the games, even though they scored pretty well in the one game that they had. I think they're trying to give way too much onto Trinidad. Like I don't think that's fair.
So this is why I disagree with you about Arch Manning, right? I think unfortunate to Arch Manning this season really was an eye opener for a lot of people. People were hyping up based on his name, not actually what he could do on the field. They hyped him up so much that it was a letdown for everybody. So I don't think that Arch Manning, I'm going to go ahead and say this. I don't think Arch Manning maybe he could eventually be as good as Mendoza was this season, maybe, but I have a hard time seeing it. And the reason being is you mentioned how well he looked in that bowl game. No offense, Michigan is nothing to brag about, let alone Michigan, I want to say, had several players opt out of that game. That's another thing to look at. So I get what you're saying, Steve, about Arch Manning is going to have a push, but what has Arch Manning really shown us that he's going to be the guy? I mean, let's be real. The performance you saw from Arch Manning against Michigan, especially that big run right up the middle, right? We've seen that before. We've seen players do that before, right? What has he done that's really that amazing? I'll tell you what Mendoza has done. It's what's anointed him Mr. Clutch. The guy in the clutch moments always shows up. If you guys remember, I want to say it was in the middle of the season, and I forget who Indiana was playing. Maybe it was, I want to say it was Notre Dame. I forget who it was they were playing, but we thought Indiana was going to finally lose the game. And somehow, out of nowhere, in the back of the end zone, the receiver makes some ridiculous last-second attempt and somehow got his tippy toes on the field, right? And won the game in the last second. That was a last-second throw by Mendoza, right? Those are the clutch moments. I don't see Arch Manning doing that, Steve. So that's why I got to push back against Arch Manning. I think the hype I get with Arch Manning is over. In that kind of, if you look at the transfer portal and who's leaving Texas, it kind of paints that picture too. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, that's fine. I think Arch and Mystic and I have talked about this. I think early in the year, the hype was destroyed early in the year. But if you watch the games and go back and really look at how he played going after the middle of the season, he started to play. And I mean play. He wasn't superstar, but he was getting better every game. And he's been on an upward trajectory. And I get what you're saying about all the guys that weren't in the game that opted out. That doesn't mean there wasn't talent on that field.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was talent on that field. He ripped off a 60-yard triple option run that was faster than Saquon Barkley's fastest speed as a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's an impressive play on any stage. And that was after the team had got they had forced a fumble, I believe it was, or it was an interception. I think it was an interception. They forced a turnover. They got the ball back. And he went, whatever, and just ripped off the 60-yard run. Like, and that's what I mean. Like, if he continues to play as he was for the final, I'd say 6 games of the year, and then what he just did in that bowl game, if he continues that into next season, I think we're having a different conversation at this time come the 2027 draft.
Yeah, is very, very, very interesting. Got some news that got posted 8 minutes ago by On3. Why? It is kind of a bigger one, and I'm kind of surprised here because I know this kid showed some promise, and I think he has some talent. Washington QB Demond Williams has entered the transfer portal. It'll be very interesting where he ends up. I think that might be big because I think he's one of those dual threat guys that, there's something to be had there. He just needs the right team around him. And we'll see. I think that's something to keep an eye on. All right. I see 76 people currently watching on all fronts. We really appreciate you. Again, come over to 4th and 10U on YouTube, right? If you come over to the YouTube side, go to the description. You'll see our link there. Please click our link. Follow us on YouTube at 4th and 10U, right? We're trying to build up that algorithm. Once we get to 100 subscribers, we're going to have a lucky follower picked randomly is going to win a free hat of their favorite college team. And we'll send that to you. And then once we get to 500 subscribers, we're going to have a much, much bigger giveaway. So definitely we're trying to grind to 100 as of right now. We really appreciate everybody following, but make sure you hit the like button at the same time. So what would your guys' ranking be? I'm assuming it's Mendoza number 1. I'm assuming.
Yes, I got Mendoza 1, Moore 2. Then I have the Ole Miss quarterback, and then Carson Beck.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely for me. It's Mendoza number 1, Dante Moore, and then like you just said, Chambliss, and then Carson Beck. But then again, I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of like I don't know what it is, Mystic. I guess I'm a Dante Moore hater, and I hate to say that because I hate hating people, but he just doesn't wow me. So it's hard to like put him above people. I don't know. He just sounds boring to me. I don't know. Just me. Don't take
elite
it.
Game manager, man. Just remember that when you're looking at him. Elite game manager.
I was more hung up on Carson Beck and Trinidad. Like that's why I was so like I think you could make the argument that Beck could be switched with him, but hey, what do I know?
No, you're right. You're right. Carson Beck could. I mean, I don't know. I think the interceptions really killed it during the season, making those foolish interceptions and watching your team lose to teams like Louisville and SMU because of that. I think that really why people have him at number 4. However, he hasn't made any mistakes hardly at all in the last 2 games. I'm giving him the opportunity to prove everybody that they were wrong. He should be really close at number 3, looking up at number 2, to be honest. Because and we'll get into the picks here in a moment, but once I give my take on my picks and stuff, you might see why I think that. All right. Any final thoughts on the quarterbacks before we move on to the next subject?
Nope.
No, sir.
All right. So now we're going to do something fun. My team's not in this because it would be, to be honest, it would be an unfair advantage if my team was in this, but we're going to rank the skill positions by teams, right? Who has the worst to the best. This article I'm reading actually ranks the skill positions. I'm kind of surprised on the ranking again. I don't know if this guy was drinking when he made this list or whatever, but I'm going to give you his explanation and everything. You tell me what you guys think. All right. So the first one, I kind of agree with it, to be honest. I'm kind of like questioning it a little bit, but it's Oregon is who the number 4 is. Oregon running backs Jordan Davidson, De'Aaron Hill Jr., and Noah Washington. The Ducks committee approach at running back has kept the trio fresh heading into Friday's rematch, although the three have much better results than against Texas Tech when they combined for 86 yards on 33 carries. That's not very much, to be honest. Combining for 86 yards, I'm kind of surprised by that. What do you guys think about Oregon being number 4? Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I don't know about all that. I'm thinking,
I'm going to say 86 yards on 33 carries between 3 running backs. I think they kind of deserve that, to be honest. That's not really good.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I kind of want to hear the rest of this, though, but I feel like maybe 3 could be argued, but I just kind of want to hear how this thing goes. So what else we got?
So number three is nuts. They're saying number 3 is Miami. Wide receiver Malachi Toney, the outstanding freshman, has 4 100-yard games this season, has been held in check during the college football playoff, gaining just 38 yards on 10 receptions. The Hurricanes will have to do a better job of scheming plays to get Toney the ball in space, but he's also capable of exploding for a big gain on special teams, such as 55-yard punt return against Texas A&M in the first round. I'm going to go ahead and say this. If you have a player on your team that's getting triple covered or being specifically guarded man-on-man the entire game and put in check, that means he's a dangerous weapon and is capable of a lot more. But that also allows the rest of your skill players to eat, right? They also didn't mention Fletcher, who really was the game winner both the first round and second round against Texas A&M and against arguably the number 1 defense. Even Steve looked it up against Ohio State. Fletcher showed up in the running back position. I like Miami definitely better than I like Oregon, but at number 3, I don't know. I think they're closer to number 2. What are you guys' thoughts?
I think Malachi Toney's better than. I think he might be better than anything that Oregon or Indiana has. Like their number 1 wide receiver in Indiana is Elijah Surratt. I don't think he's as good as Malachi Toney.
Yeah,
like that's insane to me. I don't know.
Who's the tight end that Oregon has? Sadiq, right?
Yep.
Sadiq. I heard he's really good, right?
Oh, yeah.
I just don't think that they're at Miami's level. But then Ole Miss, Ole Miss is number 3 on this list. I just don't think I personally think that Miami has more talent. We didn't even mention CJ Daniels. Remember CJ Daniels' famous catch against Notre Dame, one-handed, like leaping backwards against Notre Dame in the end zone? You guys remember that? Right? Hell of a catch. It was probably the best catch all season, if you want to argue that. One of the best. I really think Miami's talent is much better than what this guy gives them credit for. I think he's trying to find ways to hate on Miami, to be honest. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? Does Miami deserve number 3, or do they deserve to be higher?
I mean, it's tough because the one thing Ole Miss does have is a monster at running back. I mean, that man had, what was it, 1,400 yards this year?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it was? Oh, I just pulled it up. Yeah, 1,400 yards and 23 touchdowns.
You're talking about are you talking about Kwan Lacey?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lacey has scored touchdowns in all but one game this season, including 8 in a row. He's been a tear over his last 6 games since November 1st, ranking 3rd in FBS rushing during this span, getting 768 yards and averaging 5.9 yards per attempt. That's really good at running back. I get it, right? I get it. And I don't know who all Ole Miss has played. I guess I'll have to go and look at that. I just think that if you look at the group of players, you have Fletcher, you have Malachi Tony, you have CJ Daniels and others. I think overall Miami has the better collective skill positions, and that's what they win on. Whereas Ole Miss, you could argue it's just Kwan Lacey. Who else is there that you can really name that had a significant impact?
I mean, he did put 224 yards on Florida and 3 touchdowns.
Okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't. I guess I don't follow Ole Miss like I used to. When I was watching Ole Miss, they had guys like AJ Brown, DK Metcalf. You know, they were running it up with those 2 guys. Even what's his name? Keyshawn Judkins went to Ole Miss, for example, right before he transferred to Ohio State. That's where it was for me. I don't know. I just thought the whole overall room collective, including the running backs room, I thought Miami overall was better. But that's just my opinion. But that is a lot of touchdowns from one singular guy. So you are right about that. So are we staying Ole Miss number 2, Miami number 3 then?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So number 1 obviously is Indiana. Charlie Becker, right? Hell of a wide receiver. Omar Cooper Jr. and Elijah Surratt. That's a hell of a hell of a skill position room. Much credit to Mendoza, obviously. But these guys have been nothing but elite for them. They're from their running game, they're wide receivers, they're getting their job done.
Don't forget Roman Himby. Yeah.
And actually, Cooper was the guy I was talking about that caught the ball in the end zone with one like small tippy toe. And it was against Penn State, because I think Indiana was getting ready to lose to Penn State in that game, actually. I think that's where it happened. But yeah, for me, overall, I think Indiana is by far number 1. I could go, looking back at it, I'm going to be honest, I could go Miami number 3 or number 2 for skill position. I just rate Malachi Tony is so much higher. What they're doing. Go ahead.
I think it should be Ole Miss, Miami, Indiana. As the
in that order?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Do you explain why?
Well, I mean, just from a pure production standpoint, right? Omar Cooper, 849 yards. Ariza Surratt, 727 yards. Charlie Becker, 566 yards, right? That's like they're leaders. And then Roman Himby had 1,000 yards rushing. We're talking 7 touchdowns from Himby, 12 touchdowns from Cooper, 13 touchdowns from Surratt, 3 touchdowns from Becker. And then you jump over to Ole Miss, right? 1,464 yards, 23 touchdowns from Lacey, 894 yards from Wallace, their number 1 wide receiver, 4 touchdowns. Dejon Stribling, 6 touchdowns, 734 yards. Like, they're producing more and from just an overall standpoint, Ole Miss is overproducing, right? Indiana, and then you jump over to right? Let me get back to how I have that. Sorry, it's not giving me the same. There it is. So you have almost 1,000 yards from Fletcher, 947 rushing yards, 1,000 yards from Kadarius Toney, the only receiver of the groups to have over 1,000 yards, 626 yards from Marlin, and then CJ Daniels, who was injured for a good section of the year, still ended up with almost 500 yards and 7 touchdowns. Malachi Toney 8 touchdowns, and then you add on top of it Malachi Toney's weapon as a special teams unit. Like I just from an overall standpoint, I think Miami and Ole Miss get more production out of their guys than Indiana or Oregon do.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Some more some more news. I mentioned what's the name? DeMond Williams, the quarterback out of Washington. A team that some people are linking him to, and I guess everybody's linked to this team, but it would make a very interesting pickup for them is Miami Hurricanes. So that would be somewhere for him to go. I think he is this dual threat ability. I think Malachi Toney would eat, as well as it fits what they want to do there too. So it'll be very interesting. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying in regards to what, the overall production. I think if you look at Indiana, though, they're clutch in the most clutch moments, right? They've always stepped up, even against Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. I want to say their top receiver, I can't remember if it was Surratt or Cooper, one of the two, got injured. He had like a calf problem or something like that. And Becker, got up and made all the plays. He was like clutch. They could throw to him all day long. And their running back room also performed and did what they had to do to win the game. And it seems like that's been what has been the story narrative the entire season. And looking at the production across the board, that just shows Mendoza is spreading the ball around. That just shows how much more elite he is as a QB. Be able to spread the ball around to whoever he wants at his will. So I don't know. I see what you mean by Ole Miss, though. That's really interesting. I guess we'll wait and see who wins these games before we really decide who had the better skill players. So we'll see. The next subject, and this will be the last one of the rankings, storyline. Who has the worst to best storyline in getting to the national championship game, right? This was interesting takes. So for me, I think the most boring is Oregon winning their first national title. That's all it is. Their first, win their first national title. If people don't remember back in 2014, they failed against Ohio State after whooping the team that they played in the semifinal. Ohio State came off the Alabama win and whooped Oregon like it was nothing, right? So for me, it'll be very interesting. But I don't think Oregon winning, that would be like major, title for me. That wouldn't be like a major storyline or anything like that. What do you guys think? Oregon winning its first national title would be like the least favorite storyline for the national title game. Would you agree with that?
I mean, I guess it would depend what fan base you ask. I guess it depends on who you're asking. There's some people in the fan base that I think would say there's a certain team down the south that they would say might be the worst thing.
But Mystic, we're talking about worse, like if this happens, which I know it's your dark horse to win it all, I get it, right? But outside of you, if you take a really unbiased take on it, does it really have a storyline behind it? We've seen teams win their first national title before, but winning their first national title, would that be bigger than, let's say, Indiana winning its first national title?
I think it's Dan. It would be about Dan Lanning at that point. If we're talking about storylines, I mean, Dan Lanning and what he's done and brought to the organization, and that rough, kind of a Dan Campbell, if you will, just a blue collar, rough mentality. We're coming in. This is what it's going to be. Deal with it. I believe that if I remember correctly, there's kind of something with him. If you go back and look deep enough, where he's kind of had some ups and downs, through the course of getting to where he's at. So, again, it's always nice to see someone new winning. I'm always for new champions. It's nice in general that no matter what, we're going to get a champion that we haven't seen in over 20 some years. So, regardless, it'll all work out, in my opinion.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, for me, look, that's number 4 on this list too. Is Oregon, right? Number 3, again, it's common. Miami is at number 3. Miami winning as the 10th seed would be interesting. They've gone this whole, I don't know if it's been a decade. How long has it been since they got the black flag?
I think that was 2012.
I can't remember what year it was, but it just feels like it's been, obviously it's been more than a decade at this point. They're finally coming out of the cracks and becoming relevant again. And the fact that they barely got in, you had this whole hoopla if Notre Dame or Miami should have been in, and they got in, at the end, and they win at the 10th seed. That's really interesting. That's to me, that's really impressive based on where they had to come from. Oregon's been in it every other year, it feels like. Since the inauguration of the playoff era, it just feels like Oregon's been there quite a few times. At least that's how I feel about it. And they've been good. They've been good at a point where they can always compete for it. It's always like they're one of those top teams, and maybe it falters at the end or something. You know what I mean? So that's why I kind of feel like Oregon, them winning it wouldn't be like, oh, I wouldn't be happy. It's not like I wouldn't be happy for them. It's just that I wouldn't be overwhelmed like, wow, that happened in my lifetime. You know what I mean? Miami winning, I don't know if that'd be a great thing. Miami fans are already kind of nuts and crazy about their team. Imagine if they won, how are they going to be? Just to be fair about it, they're going to go off like.
Thank you. Oh, good. Continue.
They're going to be
off. Come on.
They are. There's people in this community that can't stop bringing them up, right? If they win, we'll just hear about Miami for the rest of our lives. That's just what it comes down to. And can they win it? Yeah, anything's possible. But
I like the underdog story. I think it's a great underdog story. I like the fact that they were once the powerhouse, the undefeated team, right? The Hurricane lineage was of greatness, and then it was snatched away, and now they're rebuilt from nothing. They went and got a guy who used to be a Hurricane to come back and save their team, and now they're finally back in the limelight. They were the number 1 team at one point in time in the season, and then they started to slip, and now they showed up as the 10th team and started swinging again. They were underdogs in every game, and they're still fighting. I think it's a good story, but that could just be me.
I agree. It is an underdog story, and I think that's awesome for them. I'm going to go ahead and say my thoughts that number 3 and number 2 are tied. I want to say Miami's tied with an Ole Miss win, because think about this. Ole Miss, their coach gets either, depending on how you looked at it, either quit or got fired, right? On a tarmac, taking an airplane to Baton Rouge. And they had to piece together a coaching staff, right? After we're already in the playoffs. And somehow or another, yeah, they were going to win the first round. We already knew Ole Miss was better than the team they were going up against. But then they were able to piece it against the big bad Giants that have been there, won it before, just got done smacking Alabama around in the SEC championship game, Georgia, right? And they somehow come out with a win. That watching Ole Miss win, and let's say they go on to win the whole thing, what a spit in the face to Lane Kiffin that would be. Not just directly to him with their direct fan base, but nationally. Lane Kiffin would be like a laughing stock at that moment, right? You could have been a national championship winner with the team that you should have just been loyal to. You took them this far, and then at the last second, you're so enamored by LSU. And if it's not LSU, it's Alabama, where he would rather go anyway. It's just really, that would be a really funny and epic storyline to it. Let alone people around these parts that I've talked to think that Ole Miss really has been this mid-tier SEC team its entire history. Win a national championship pulls you out of that mid-tier logo. So we'll see. We'll see. And obviously, number one, who's already there, according to this, and I kind of agreed with it, Indiana winning a national championship with Mendoza. Talking about the worst college football program in history, the one that's lost more games than any other team. What a story to go up against all the powerhouses and win. Arguably the best from the SEC, arguably the best from the Big Ten, and win the whole thing. That would be an amazing story, I think. Even more so than a Mario Cristobal, even more so than watching Ole Miss somehow win it without a big time, head coach to give you an example. What do you guys think about that? Indiana's number one. That would be the number one storyline.
Absolutely.
I like it. I like it because it's a team that's never won before. I'd rather go for that than a team that's been winning consistently. That's just my thoughts. So to be honest, if I look at this entire playoff right now, how it sits, at least we are getting a winner that hasn't either won in a long time or hasn't won it at all. Right? I think Miami's won it before. I would agree. Is that correct? They've won it before. Or am I wrong about that?
A national championship?
Yeah.
They won in 2001.
Yeah.
Yes, they won 2001. So they've won it before, right? They haven't won it in a long ass time. Ole Miss, I don't know. I don't know their history. I'd have to look to see if they've won, but they haven't won in a long ass time. Oregon's never won it, and Indiana obviously has never won it. So no matter what, we're getting somebody that hasn't won it in a long ass time. So
I mean, depends on the story, who's telling the story, they would have won. Miami would have went back to back if a certain team wouldn't have beat them.
Steve, you play the game, you lose the game. That's just what it comes down to. You can't sit here and be hung up on it for 20 some years.
Hey, I just said beat them. I didn't say how or why. I just said if you listen to certain fan base, they would have won too if it wasn't for Ohio State beating them.
Yeah, well, see, that's why I'm an Ohio State fan, because I have the thought process. Okay, I was salty when you beat me, but I don't hold a 20-year grudge. I sit here and I look at the next year. Okay, how are we going to be better and beat you the next year? That's how I look at it. That's how every fan should really look at it, to be honest. That's my opinion, though. What do I know? So, final thoughts on the rankings of the storylines. Any thoughts on that?
No, I'm with you.
All right. We'll go on to the last subject, which is one everyone's waiting for. Let's go down with the breakdown, right? We're going to do this breakdown. Let's do it. We'll kick it off with Miami versus Ole Miss, right? Surprisingly, with Ole Miss, I didn't know this. They're the Ole Miss Rebels, right? But I'm kind of confused about their whole mascot situation. Originally, their mascot was this old rebel-looking kind of character, and then later years they changed it to a black bear. That was kind of cool, and then they changed it from a black bear to a land shark. I don't know if you guys saw that. That was in our thumbnail. That was the shark from Ole Miss. I didn't know they changed it to a shark. Is their stadium called Land Shark Stadium? Do you know if that's a thing?
I have no idea.
I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. I know some teams have changed their mascots over the years or maybe tweaked them a little bit. But I thought it was still the Rebel, and I was wrong. So I'm glad I caught it before I created the thumbnail. But Ole Miss, surprising. They pulled a rabbit out of the hat against Georgia. Can they do it again against a arguably high momentum defensive front right now? They have a lot of momentum after beating Ohio State. They came out with dominance. That defensive line came for a beatdown. Are they going to be able to beat down Ole Miss? Is Ole Miss going to keep it close as much as they can to maybe do it again? That is the question. I'm leaning Hurricanes win this game. I think they're going to win very fashionably, similar to how they beat Ohio State with overall defensive dominance. I'm going to go ahead and say that Carson Beck is going to be his game manager self. Try to make no mistakes, just doing what he needs to do to execute with no interceptions. That's how I think this game is going to go. What do you guys think?
I feel like that's the easy pick. And I feel like the easy picks kind of got us the last couple weeks. We had two easy picks now that we thought were, this is what's gonna happen. We're convinced, and this Ole Miss team seems to be the team that continuously shows up and proves us wrong. I don't know what it is. I did not expect these dudes to even be here. I did not expect this to be the matchup. But I'm gonna be the one to maybe give them something here. I think Ole Miss finds a way to get it done in a grindy. I'm gonna take a Steve take here. I think it's gonna be 16-13 final.
16-13.
Yes,
you know
sir.
what? I kind of like that. My mind is telling me that University of Miami is going to win this game, but my gut's telling me that Ole Miss is going to keep it close. I'm going to go 17-14 final.
I like it.
That's what I'm going to go. What do you think, Steve?
All right, you ready for this? So, these two teams are polar opposites.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
How do I want to say this? UM is a very defensive team. They are the 30th ranked scoring offense in college, right? Whereas Ole Miss is number 10. Can Miami keep up with Ole Miss? Now, here's the flip of it. Miami has the number 4 defense. Ole Miss has the 30th ranked defense. What side of the ball is going to show up for these teams? Does UM's defense and trenches take over the game and keep it close? Or does Ole Miss offense run away with the board? They've scored almost 40 points in both of their games. 39 and 41. UM scored 10 and 24, but neither of their opponents scored more than 15 points. this game is going to be either a shootout or a slugfight. And I think it might be a shootout. I'm going 24. No. 29-32. Miami wins on a field goal.
All right, you've kind of convinced me a little bit to change my pick, just tweak it just a little bit. I'm gonna give you two picks, and depending on how the score goes, I'll tell you who's gonna win. If it's a close game, Miami's winning. I'm gonna tell you right now, Miami's gonna win the close game. If it is a slugfest, because if you do look at that Georgia Ole Miss score, it was kind of a slugfest, kind of. I think Ole Miss could upset. It's very possible. I still going with my mind though. Miami's going to win this game. I'm still going to go with it. Are you changing anything at all, Mystic, or you like where we ended up with that?
You know, like it's a bunch of good information, and you know, history usually says that when a top offense plays a top defense, usually that top defense wins. I just think there's something to this. Everyone's been counting this Ole Miss team out. They don't have a head coach. You're not supposed to be here. You're gonna lose in the first round, and this, like, they've just continued to write their own story. And I'm gonna support it, man. I'm here for that. I'm here for that ride, right? What do they say? Go Rebels! Oh,
go Rebels! We'll see. I hate to say this, but I just have this. My mind's telling me that Miami's gonna win this game. That's like the smart thing to go with. And Ole Miss, though, shout out to them if they can somehow keep up with the scoring and maybe pour it on a little bit more. We'll see. We'll see what happens. It's gonna be a very interesting battle. The next game, Indiana versus Oregon. I think Mendoza has been clutch all season. I think, though it's very hard to beat the same team twice in the same season, because Indiana already beat Oregon, to do it again in the same season, I think is very tough, right? We lost Mystic. I think he didn't like my take. We shall see. But I think that, yep, here he is. You're back.
hey, that's the show thing, right? My bad.
Nah, it's all right. We got a side bet going on. I just won $50 from you doing that, so thank you very much. I'm just kidding, bro.
That's awesome.
No, it's all good. But I just think that I think Indiana is gonna put belt to ass again. In fact, I think they beat Oregon more so than they did the first time around this season. I think they're one of the few teams that can beat the same team twice in the same season. I think he's been clutch all year. Why not stop? I think we're going to end up seeing an Indiana versus Miami national championship game, and whoever wins, that can actually solidify who's the better coach. Also for us in our rankings from the last episode. So, what do you guys think?
Man, let me tell you. Usually in these rematch situations, they just played here, you know, a couple weeks ago or earlier this season, one of the two. They played this season, regardless. Indiana won, took care of business. Again, Dan Lanning, right? He's going to be prepared. But what no one's prepared for and ready to admit is that, again, there's a new powerhouse in college football, and it's the Indiana Hoosiers, ran by your boy over here, Kurt Signetti.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt Signetti, he gives me Nick Saban vibes. He really does. There's not many guys on the sideline that you see up, 21, and they're coaching the hell out of their guys. Not happy with the details on them, pressing them to be better. Like, just the look of determination that this guy constantly has in the plays and pay attention to the game. And Ah, it's something special, man. We're getting ready to watch something special. And to the Fernando Mendoza is one of the more clutch quarterbacks in all of football. We're going to see it again. I think Dan Lanning finds a way to make this close. I think they understand how to play this defense, having already played them once. I think that's going to be their advantage to keep this close. Dante Moore is going to manage enough to keep them in it. But old Clutch Mendoza is going to get the ball last, drive down the field, take care of business, and Indiana's walking on to the national championship, and they're going to win it 35-28.
Okay. All right. What do you think, Steve?
I think this game is so interesting because both teams are so good on both sides of the ball. Both teams can score with the best of them, and they can stop and shut teams down with the best of them on defense. I do believe this will look more akin to the Indiana Ohio State game, where whichever quarterback turns out to be more clutch wins the game. And that's Indiana because Mendoza has been nothing if clutch all year for that team. The clutch man pulls out the win.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think Mr. Clutch is just gonna continue to be Mr. Clutch. There's nothing that has been done this playoff season to say otherwise. It started in that Ohio State Indiana game in the Big Ten championship, and it hasn't stopped. Every game this kid plays, he just looks better and better and better. It doesn't seem like anything you do is going to make a difference. I think Indiana wins heavily. I don't know if it's going to be 38-3, but I will say that Mendoza will have another multi-touchdown game, to be honest. He'll have 2 or 3 touchdowns again. That's what I'm going to say. Yeah. Any final thoughts? So it's kind of split between the board. Mystic, you're going all in on Oregon is what you're doing. Is that correct?
Well, I was up until this game.
So you don't know if they can go this game, huh?
I really don't. Like I trust me, I've thought about it. I think the only way that Oregon wins this game is if we see an uncharacteristically bad game from Mendoza. If he turns the ball over twice, Oregon wins the game. And I think both of these quarterbacks are capable of taking on the elite defense of Miami that you guys think can go through. I think it would be awesome to see 2 powerhouse offenses go at it in the national championship. I think that'd be awesome to see too. Obviously, Indiana, Ole Miss, but I think Signetti would. I think Signetti would do some things to Carson Beck, but I hate to say it, but as much as I'd want that high-powered offense, I think Signetti would do some worse things to the offense of Ole Miss that probably we haven't seen. And look what he did to Alabama. When was the last time you see Alabama get that dismantled? You know, like the plans that this man has, like we think we know, but we don't know until game day.
Very interesting. Yeah, it'll be very it will be very, very interesting, what happens. Look, Kurt Signetti wins or even Mario Cristobal wins it all. It's going to be, you can pretty much, no matter who wins this game, you pretty much can already tell who the top 5 coaches are. Actually top 4, I'll say, in college football today, right? You have Kirby Smart, you have Ryan Day, you have Kurt Signetti, you have Mario Cristobal, right? Those are the top 4 guys in college football today. Who's number 5? That could be debatable, right?
Absolutely.
That number 5, who's the number 5 head coach in college football today? It could be anybody. People used to say that Sarkisian was going to be the number 1 head coach this season, and look how that turned out. You know what I mean? It's that's the one guy you can't really put a finger on it. Even if Mario Cristobal doesn't win the national championship game, and let's say Signetti does, what he has accomplished is incredible. So just for that alone, and taking his team as far as they did at the number 10 seed, I have to give Mario Cristobal all the credit in the world, right? But Curt Signetti winning a national championship with Indiana, put that in the writing, put that in the books. Imagine 20 years from now, you're in the future and you go look back and you're like, holy shit, in 2026, Indiana won the national championship? Really? Right? That is something to think about. I don't know. I think it'll be very interesting what happens. I do think Miami finds a way to beat Ole Miss, and I think it's going to be Indiana on the other side. I really feel that's what it's going to end up. It is. Any final thoughts before we move on?
I'm good.
Good. Okay. All right. Let's get. Time to speak your piece. I have a good one. I would like to go last if it would be okay. Who would like to speak their piece first?
I can go first. That's chill.
All right.
Honestly, to try to make it somewhat quick, we've talked about this, in spaces and recently kind of among us here when we got time. And I really think this college football calendar needs to get figured out. Eliminate the opportunity that is, oh, well, the team had so much rest. We had a winning coach bring this kind of to the table after winning last week. And that's my thing. We have all this time in December. You can cram it all together, take away a bye week, if not, however you want to organize it, smash the schedule together, and then you'd be able to play right after the major championships. Right at that next weekend, boom, playoff start. We're in it. That would be the first round bye for the top seeds. That's how I see it. I think that would be awesome. The month of December being what is the college football rev up to, New Year's Day would then become the college football championship, pretty much, if you did it right. Or, the week of however it ends up playing, but it'd be around that time. I think that would be everything. You're promoting the best product, in my opinion, because this current 1 in 5 for top seeds all time, basically losing, except for Indiana. It's not good. It takes time to build up through the course of the season to get to the best version of yourself as a football player, and then you're asked to take 3 weeks off and then get right back to your best. I just don't think that bodes well and makes the best product, honestly, and that's my opinion. That's just where I'm at. I don't want to get too long-winded with it, but I think they need to figure out the college football schedule to make it better for the players and the product itself.
Very interesting. I do kind of agree. They do need to make it better. I want to say more fair across the board, because when you take long period off of time off of the game, you lose that edge. I agree with that. You lose that edge. You lose that thought process. Your body goes into a different state as you start to relax and everything, and it does affect the game. So I personally, I think teams shouldn't have more than a week off. It should be just like a 1 week bye, personally. That's just my opinion. What do I know? But Steve, what are your final thoughts?
I'm gonna take a different spin to kind of the point he made, to something more about the college, not so much the schedule, but how the teams are chosen for for the college playoffs.
You
Like-
took my thunder. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let's see what you got. Because you and I were thinking the same thing. Go ahead. Go ahead.
How many games have we seen in the last 3 weeks that were just boring? Oregon sat their starting lineup halfway through a game.
Yeah.
We had 2 blowouts in one day where the other team shouldn't have scored a single point. Now, one of those teams should have been, I think Alabama should have been in the playoffs, right? That's fine. But, like, I just keep thinking, especially after watching the bowl game, what could have Texas and Arch Manning done against one of these teams? What could Notre Dame have done in one of these games? Like, it just goes back to the baffling, like, I get why they have it this way because it's not fair for the divisions that don't get the talent. But God, these games, it just there's something to where every team in the playoffs is just a slug fight. I love it. They got to figure that out.
I agree with you 100%. And I'll kind of go into what I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to leave you guys with something that's completely unrelated and something to think about, actually. I think that there needs to be some type of qualifier that signifies if you're qualified to even be in the playoffs, right? And I know in some sports, there's like a qualifier game. Like in the NBA, they have the play-in. You got to win the play-in games to get into the playoffs, for example, if you're one of these fringe teams. I think if you're your conference champion, then yeah, that should be an automatic bid for you. I agree with that. But then you look at these qualifier games that they could instill, right? Let's say Ohio State plays a top 5 team. That should be a qualifier game, right? Same thing if, let's say, Indiana plays a top 5 team, or let's say Texas A&M beats a top 5 team, right? Same thing. They should have these qualifying games. JMU's or the Tulanes of the world, or even Northern Texas, that's another up and coming team. All those teams definitely should have qualifier games to see if they should be in or not. And the reason I say that is because I do agree with Steve. I do think that the sport looks better when you have the Alabamas versus Oklahomas, and Indiana versus the Alabamas, or Miami versus the Ohio States of the world, right? Those games, or even Ohio State versus Indiana, that was probably one of the best conference championship games I've ever watched, right? That it had me on the edge of the seat the entire game. So for me, if we're going into a playoffs, I want to see a slugfest. I want teams to beat the crap out of each other. If someone's not getting hurt, it's not a game to me. That's just my thought process on it. And I think that they need to raise the bar. They need to raise the bar. Don't let teams that don't really deserve to be in the first place get in automatically with this whole news with Notre Dame. You need to scratch that. Notre Dame wants to be in this. They either need to join a conference and get in the same way everybody else, or they need to prove it by winning against the best teams out there, right? If Notre Dame beat Miami, are we having Miami in this playoffs? I'd say no, right? I would say Notre Dame's probably in. There's not even a question about it, right? My point is that if you're going to beat the big teams, that should be your qualifier. And they need to also match up the schedule to where everybody's on the same board, where you don't get this 2 or 3 week layover before you play your game, right? They need to figure a way to balance it. Just my opinion and thoughts on it. The only people that should be getting the bye are the conference champion, the top 4 teams that probably won their conference champion, because that's how they became top 4 in the first place. So that's just how I think it should be. I wanted to leave you guys with something, right? And we talked about transfer portals. We talked about who declared for the NFL draft. Interesting enough, and this could change tomorrow, so I'm going to put this on as a caveat. Caleb Downs has not declared for the NFL draft yet. It is expected that he is to, right? Everyone thinks I've argued, I know Steve has argued till he's blue in the face why Caleb Downs deserves to be a top 5 draft pick, right? So it's expected for him to pick that he's going to go to the NFL, but he hasn't done it. Not yet. Interesting enough, tomorrow, in a podcast that's being released tomorrow, he might put out there what he's planning on doing. There's also been some cryptic X posts that, tweets, if you want to call it, that both Caleb Downs, even Carnell Tate had put out there, and even Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate had put out about Caleb Downs. So will Caleb Downs declare for the NFL? We might find out tomorrow. So keep an eye on that. That'll be really interesting, because I'll say if he doesn't declare and he stays another year, that is going to be internet breaking, to be honest. A lot of people are going to be talking about that. I don't know what you think, Steve. It's going to be very daring not for him to go in the NFL draft this draft cycle. What do you think?
I think you said the nice way. I think it'd be stupid. You are a consistent top 5 pick. You're being called generational. You are only risking getting hurt, having a bad season, and just tanking your draft stock. Go to the draft. Go make millions of dollars. You're going to be the prize of somebody's defense.
So I'm just going to push back just a little bit on that, Steve, just a little bit, because I agree with you. I think he should go, right? I expect him to go. I'm being honest about it. But there's some players, both in the college side and the NFL side, that are really just true competitors, more so than they are wanting to be a professional football player. This kid wants to win, and when he starts a project, he doesn't seem like the kid that wants to just walk away from a project till he's completed his mission, if you know what I mean. He's not the first Ohio State player to do this. Jack Sawyer and among others returned last season to the team that went on that national championship run, when people thought they could have won it the year before, but they lost to Michigan. So for me, would it be surprising that he would stay? Absolutely. Absolutely would be surprising. It would be earth-shattering, to be honest. But as knowing who he is as a person, would it surprise me? No. I think he's that type of person that when he sets a goal, he doesn't stop till he meets that goal. You know what I'm saying? And if he's really that good, to be honest, if he's the generational talent that we say that he is, right? It doesn't matter if he leaves in this draft or next draft, he's still going to be that guy in the NFL. You see what I'm saying? That's how I see it. So I don't know. Go ahead, Mystic.
I'm with you. I'm exactly with your thought process, and let it come out that this kid wants to go back to try to win a Big Ten championship and go play for a natty, because that's the dog mentality in this generation that I've been talking about that you don't see enough. All you see is guys chasing bags. You don't see them chasing chips. Chips will give you money, people. Chips will give you deals, generational wealth. That's the top of the top. You're one of the greatest in your respective sport. Like, that's what it's all about. It would not surprise me, and if anything, would just solidify how great his potential is at the next level.
Yeah. So I mean, look, straight up, I think he's going to the NFL. I think tomorrow we find out he declares. That's what I think. Absolutely. And that's the smart move to do based on Steve said. I agree with it. But would it surprise me knowing him as a person, what he would be doing if he were to stay? No, it wouldn't surprise me because I do think he is a dog, like you said. And if he's as good as we say, it doesn't matter if he comes now or he comes 2027 draft. To be honest, Steve, he's still going to be that dog. Do you get what I'm saying? I don't think it changes. I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I'll leave that with everyone else. Make sure everybody hits the like button. Please do. Please hit the like button 100%. And if you're watching on X, we have over 106 people watching. This has been amazing. The last 2 weeks, you guys have showed up in the numbers. We really appreciate everybody, right? If you're on X, come over to the YouTube side, right? Click on the description of the show. Find the at fourth and 10U link. Click on that link. Follow us directly on the at fourth and 10U channel. We really appreciate it. We're really trying to grow this channel. We're trying to get the algorithm going so we can grow. We get to 100 followers. One lucky follower picked randomly will win a free hat of their college of their choice. So, and then when we get to 500, we're going to have a different giveaway, which is going to be much bigger. Stay tuned for that. So make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you're brand new, turn on the notification bell, tell your friends, tell your kids, tell everybody. Come check us out on 4th and 10U every Tuesday, Game Time Grind. Me, Steve, and Mystic are going to talk college ball. We're going to start getting into the NFL draft. I have a lot of info I want to talk to you guys about, prospects, where we think they're going to end up. We're going to analyze the Senior Bowl, among other bowls that are going to be there, that are going to be happening as we go into the road to the draft. It's going to be a lot to talk about. Any final words from you guys before I shut it down?
No, sir. We appreciate everybody. We'll see y'all next week.
Anything from you, Steve?
No, much love to everybody who showed up. Thanks for the support. On to another great weekend.
Y'all have a good night.